Hello again, and welcome to the Interchange Book 3 video series. Today we're going to be talking about Unit 7. And in Unit 7, we have the passive voice. So today we're concentrating on the passive voice, and specifically the present continuous of the passive voice, and the present perfect of the passive voice. Alright, so let's get started. Alright, so today we're going to talk about Costa Rica and the environment. Not only the good aspects and the good parts, but also the bad things that are happening too. So let's look up here at the plant. It says that many trees are being planted by environmental organizations, and 25% of the land is being protected through national parks. So that's a really good thing that's happening. Let's look at something negative though. The beaches are being polluted by people who throw trash on the ground. Not so good, right? Here's a good one. Windmill farms have been built to produce clean energy. That's a great one, right? Here's a negative one. Dirty water from cities is being dumped into the rivers and oceans because there aren't enough waste facilities. So dumped is when you throw something where it doesn't belong, where you shouldn't put it. So you can dump trash or you can dump dirty water into somewhere that it does not belong. Let's look at a good one down here. It says recycling programs have been started by small communities who are trying to make a difference. Awesome, right? Here's a negative one though. The air is being polluted due to fumes from too many cars. Okay. So in all of these examples, we have our grammar for today. Alright, so we need to look at the active voice to understand what is the passive voice. So the active voice looks like this. It says, people pollute the beach. Alright, so if I think about this, the people are doing the action, right? So I like to look at this as the people are the doers. So they do this action. They pollute, right? So the doer does the action, and the beach receives the action. So that's the receiver. So the people pollute the beach, the doer does the action to the receiver, and that's the active voice, right? Now, in the passive voice, I want to change this a little bit. And I want to talk about the receiver first, right? I want to talk about the receiver first. So I'm going to say the beach, right? But I need to change my action a little bit in the passive voice. I use be and the past participle of my verb. So I'm going to say the beach is polluted. And then I want to talk about by who. So I say by people. And that's the passive voice, using the receiver first and the doer last. And I need to use be plus the past participle for the passive voice. Okay? So the reason why I use the passive voice is that the receiver is the most important part of the sentence. For example, the people aren't important in this sentence. I want to talk about the beach. The beach is the thing that is affected. So the receiver is more important. Another reason why is that we don't want to talk about the doer for many reasons. Maybe it's not important, or maybe it's obvious, or maybe we don't know. So in the context of the beach is polluted, maybe it's not important who is polluting the beach, or maybe I don't know who's polluting the beach, or maybe it's obvious who is polluting the beach. So I don't always need to use my doer. I can just say the beach is polluted. Okay. So we can use the passive voice in any type of verb tense. The present, the past, the present perfect, and the present perfect continuous. But let's look at the different ways that we do this. So remember, the passive voice begins with the receiver. I use be, and then I use the past participle, and then I use by plus the doer. Now, when I want to change the verb tense to the future or the past, I change this verb. I change be. I'm always using the past participle, but I change this one to make it in the past or in the future. So if it's in the present tense, right, I say the beach is polluted by people, and I use be in the present tense. Now, if I wanted to be plural, I could say the beaches, plural, are polluted by people, because I need to use the plural form of be, right? So again, it's the form of be that I change when I want to change my passive voice. Let's look at the past tense, right? So for example, the simple past tense, I could say the beach was polluted by people, and there I have the form of be in the simple past. If I want to be plural, I could say the beaches were polluted by people. And again, I'm using were because it's plural and it's in the past tense of be. Alright, now if I want to use the present continuous, I need to use a present continuous form of be. And so that's be plus my gerund of being, right? So again, I can say the beach is being polluted by people. And that's an action that's happening right now. The beach is being polluted by people. Again, if I want to be plural, I can say the beaches are being polluted by people. And I'm using that in the plural form, right? But I'm using the present continuous with be conjugated and my continuous verb, being, because I need to use that be in the present continuous. Good. Now, the present perfect, right? If we remember, I use has or have depending on my subject or depending on the receiver. And then I'm going to use been because I need to use the past participle when I use the present perfect. So, if I look at this, I say the beach has been polluted by people. Again, using has because it's one beach. Or if I want to be plural, the beaches have been polluted by people. So I want you to look and see that the only thing I'm changing to do the present tense, the past tense, the present continuous, or the present perfect is my form of be. So the simple present form of be, the simple past form of be, the present continuous form of be, and the present perfect form of be. And I'm always using the same past participle. I don't change that at all. I change my form of be. Good. So let's look at the two that we're focusing on today, and that's the present continuous form of the passive voice and the present perfect form of the passive voice. So again, if I say the beaches are being polluted, that's an action that's occurring now. So if I look at the beach now, I can see people polluting. That this is a problem that's happening right now. And that's why I'm using the present continuous. The beaches are being polluted. Now if I use the present perfect, it's a little bit different. The same idea, but a little bit different. So I say the beaches have been polluted. And what that means is that it's an action that occurred sometime recently, right? Maybe it's still happening, but the idea is that it happened and the beaches now are already polluted. So that happened at some point in time in the past. I don't know when, it's just generally sometime it happened. So the beaches have been polluted, right? So present perfect is for something that already happened, and the present continuous is for something that's happening now. Good. Okay, so I wanted to look at all of our different sample sentences that we had at the beginning. The first one was the beaches are being polluted by people. Notice my receiver, the beaches, and my doer, people, right? That's the passive voice. The receiver is first and the doer is second. My action is in the present continuous. The beaches are being polluted by people right now. Here's the next one that we had. Many trees are being planted by environmental organizations. Again, many trees is my receiver. Recycling programs have been started by small communities. Again, the receiver is the recycling program. The air is being polluted by fumes from too many cars. Okay? Again, the air is my receiver. Here's another one. 25% of the land is being protected by national parks. Again, 25% of the land is my receiver. Here's one. Dirty water from cities is being dumped into the rivers and oceans. Okay, so notice I have my receiver, and that's the dirty water from cities. But notice I don't have a doer. Now, that's because maybe I don't want to talk about the doer, or I don't know who the doer is, or maybe the doer isn't important. But for any reason, I don't need to use the doer, like this example. Here's another example like that. Windmill farms have been built to produce clean energy. Again, I'm not using the doer. It's not important who built the wind farms, or maybe I don't know, or maybe it's just not important, so I decide I don't need to talk about that. So these are all forms of the passive voice in the present continuous and also in the past perfect. Sorry, the present perfect. Okay, so last we need to look at are the prepositions for the passive voice. Right. So if we remember this example, it said that recycling programs have been started by small communities, right? So by is the preposition, and the preposition explains what or who is doing the action. So it tells me that this action is done by the small communities, right? But I have different prepositions I can use, and I can say things like this. The air is being polluted because of, or as a result of, or through, or due to fumes from too many cars, right? So again, these prepositions explain who is doing this action. Now, these are special, right? These are special, and they're used the same way that by is used, but these are different because the action is consequential of the doer. So what does that mean? Well, think of it this way. So the recycling programs have been started by small communities, right? But this action is not a consequence of the small communities. No, the recycling programs are not a consequence of small communities. No, because the small communities decide to make these programs. However, down here, if I think the air is being polluted, right? I can think, okay, well that is a consequence of the fumes from too many cars. And if I think this is a consequence of the doer, then I can use these types of prepositions. I can also use by if I want to, but I can use these ones as well. So, one special thing to think about is with due to, that due to is only for negative ideas. So in this context, it's a very negative thing that the air is being polluted. So I can use due to describe what is polluting the air, right? Okay. So I hope this was helpful in understanding the different types of prepositions that we can use in the passive voice when your action is a consequence of the doer. And I hope you understand a little bit better how we use the passive voice not only in the present perfect, but in the present continuous form. Alright guys, thanks for listening and good luck.